आपका भी फाइन। ठीक है, नो प्रॉब्लम, नो प्रॉब्लम, फाइन। So we were discussing about the syllabus. In let's say half an hour, we'll complete that and we'll move towards the discussion of the subject. ठीक है, तीन टॉपिक्स हमने देखे हैं. First was environmental ecology, wherein basics are to be covered. Then biodiversity. Third, climate change. Fourth is fourth topic is environmental pollution and degradation. Environmental pollution and degradation. Now, in your school days, you must have studied about pollution, right? जो environmental science जो subject होता है, in that you must have studied about pollution. So this topic is not very difficult to understand, right? But what is more difficult is to, let's say, write answers related to this or solve MCQs related to pollution. Why? Because UPSC often focuses on those types of pollutants which are latest, right? जो latest होंगे उनके ऊपर UPSC का ज़्यादा focus होगा. Fine, and that's why often addressing questions related to pollution is difficult. टॉपिक समझने में प्रॉब्लम नहीं आएगा पर आंसर्स लिखने में प्रॉब्लम आ सकता है. आंसर्स में एज पर मी आंसर्स यू कैन राइट, बट अगर MCQ आया तो MCQ बहुत डिफिकल्ट होगा. फॉर एग्जाम्पल विल बी टॉकिंग अबाउट सम क्वेश्चंस. विच ऑफ द फॉलोइंग लेट्स से प्रोडक्ट्स हैव प्रेजेंस ऑफ प्लास्टिक इन देम, राइट? प्लास्टिक किन में होता है, राइट? फॉर एग्जाम्पल च्यूइंग गम्स का एक क्वेश्चन पूछा था उन्होंने. देन द बट्स ऑफ सिगरेट, राइट? जो लेफ्ट ओवर पार्ट होता है, दैट वॉज ऑल्सो देयर इन ऑप्शन. सो ऐसे अगर क्वेश्चंस आते हैं तो थोड़ा सा डिफिकल्ट हो जाता है क्वेश्चन सॉल्व करना. फाइन. सो विच डिफरेंट टाइप्स ऑफ पोल्यूशन वी आर सपोज टू स्टडी? वी आर सपोज टू स्टडी अबाउट एयर पोल्यूशन. We are supposed to study about water pollution. Then plastic pollution. E-waste pollution. E-waste pollution. E-waste stands for electronic waste, right? Good afternoon, everyone. Online students. Then we are supposed to study about solid waste pollution. Solid waste pollution. Then hazardous waste pollution. Hazardous waste pollution. Okay, so these different types of pollutions we are supposed to study. Now, in these pollutions, what are the subtopics? For example, यहाँ पे हमें क्या पढ़ना है? सब pollution के sources. First of all, what are the sources of these different pollutions? Then pollutants. Air pollution अगर हो रहा है तो वो air pollution किन pollutants के वजह से हो रहा है? Right? For example, I think in the first class I referred to ammonia. Right? Ammonia is considered as one of the major cause of pollution in Delhi NCR region. Why? Because that ammonia is producing particulate matters. PM 2.5 is getting produced because of that ammonia. Right? So that is what is pollutant. Fine. So different pollutants we are supposed to study for these pollutions, right? For example, e-waste में, electronic waste में भी बहुत ज़्यादा pollutants होते हैं. Can you please tell me any pollutant in e-waste? E-waste में क्या होता है? Yes. चिप्स होते हैं. Microchips, fine. But what they are made up of, what mobile phones are made up of, what different cameras, TVs are made up of, air conditioners are made up of. They have plastic, fine, plastic hai, but at the same time they have other pollutants like cadmium, they have mercury, they have boron, right? These different kind of pollutants are also there apart from, let's say, plastic, apart from even they have gold, silver, palladium, copper, iron, these kind of elements are also there in electronic waste. Okay? So those different pollutants we are supposed to study in pollution. Clear? Right. Now, apart from let's say sources and pollutants, what are the health hazards? What are the health hazards that are posed by these different pollutions? That is also one of the important questions that UPSC asks. Apart from health hazard, environmental hazards as well. Environmental hazards as well. Okay? And lastly, solutions. Lastly, solutions. Solutions are of two types. Solutions are of two types. For example, non-policy solutions. Non-policy solutions. इन्हें आप, for example, you can write some equipments in non-policy solutions. For example, अगर आपको air pollution कम करना है, what you can do? Don't say air purifier. Right? Air purifier pollution कम नहीं करता है. When we talk about solutions, we are trying to address sources of pollution. Have you heard about electrostatic precipitators? Electrostatic precipitators हम fit कर सकते हैं in thermal power plant. It is a kind of equipment that can help us reduce pollution. Right? Similarly, catalytic converters. Vehicles के exhaust में हम catalytic converters लगा सकते हैं so that vehicles से जो particulate matters निकल रहे हैं उन्हें हम address कर पाए. Right? Those kind of solutions will come here. Non-policy solutions. और फिर उसके बाद policy solutions. Policy solutions. There would be some government initiatives that would help us reduce all these pollutions. For example, artificial rain, fine, ठीक है, that is one of the, let's say, measures that was taken by Delhi government, but it was not very successful. बहुत successful नहीं था, right? But it was taken, fine. So policy solutions में सबसे important है acts. We have enacted some acts in order to reduce pollution in India. For example, air pollution के लिए हमारे पास एक act है जिसका नाम है The Air Prevention and Control of Pollution Act 1981. Right? Air pollution control करने के लिए Air Act है 1981 का. Water pollution control करने के लिए क्या है? Do we have Water Act? Do we have Water Act? Yes, we have. The Water Prevention and Control of Pollution Act 1974. Right? So Water Act के लिए, water pollution control करने के लिए Water Act है. इन pollutions को control करने के लिए do we have any act? No, act नहीं है, but there is one umbrella act called as Environmental Protection Act 1986. Have you heard about Bhopal gas tragedy? भोपाल गैस ट्रेजेडी होने के बाद गवर्नमेंट ने एक एक्ट एनेक्ट किया था इन ऑर्डर टू प्रोटेक्ट द एनवायरनमेंट, एंड दैट एक्ट इज कॉल्ड एज एनवायरमेंटल प्रोटेक्शन एक्ट 1986. सो उस एनवायरमेंटल प्रोटेक्शन एक्ट 1986 के अंदर बहुत सारे रूल्स हैं. फॉर एग्जाम्पल, प्लास्टिक वेस्ट पोल्यूशन रूल्स, प्लास्टिक वेस्ट मैनेजमेंट रूल्स ऑफ 2016, 2021, 2022, 2024. ये सारे रूल्स हमें देखने हैं when we talk about plastic pollution. Similarly, for e-waste pollution, there are rules of 2016, e-waste management rules 2016 and 2022. Right? वो भी हमें यहाँ पे cover करना है. Right? Then for solid waste also we have rules of 2025 and 2016. Right? Same is the case with hazardous waste, where we have rules of 2016, hazardous waste management rules of 2016. So all those rules are important from the exams point of view. Especially from the mains point of view, these rules are very important. But UPSC also try to ask questions in prelims examination. ये टॉपिक किस पार्ट में मेंशन्ड है? एनवायरमेंटल पोल्यूशन एंड डिग्रेडेशन. प्री में या मेंस में? मेंस में है. बट डिस्पाइट दैट देयर आर क्वेश्चंस इन प्रीलिम्स एग्जामिनेशन. ठीक है, तो हमें सी देयर इज नो सेग्रीगेशन एट सच व्हेन वी टॉक अबाउट एनवायरमेंट एंड इकोलॉजी. सेग्रीगेशन नहीं है. आपको दोनों एनवायरमेंट, दोनों लेट्स से स्टेजेस के लिए एनवायरमेंट साथ में पढ़ना पड़े, प्री के लिए भी मेंस के लिए, क्योंकि इट इज वन एंड द सेम. राइट? हाँ, obviously approach will differ when you study for let's say mains examination. मेंस का जब पढ़ोगे आप तो थोड़ा ब्रॉडर पर्सपेक्टिव होना चाहिए. बट फॉर प्रीलिम्स यू विल बी फोकसिंग इवन ऑन द स्मॉलर एस्पेक्ट. छोटे छोटे जो फैक्ट्स होते हैं उनके ऊपर भी आपको फोकस करना पड़े. ठीक है, सो that is what we will be talking about under environmental pollution. At the same time, there is another topic called as degradation. When we talk about degradation, we are more often than not referring to land degradation. Land degradation. So under land degradation, what we will be studying, we will be talking about sources of land degradation, or causes. Instead of saying sources, causes would be a better term. Causes of land degradation. Why land degradation occurs in India? Right? For example, अगर अरावलीज में हमने वो जजमेंट को चैलेंज, मतलब लोगों ने प्रोटेस्ट नहीं किया होता, तो दे माइट हैव कैरिड आउट माइनिंग इन दोज अरावली हिल्स हुज हाइट इज लेस देन 100 meters. राइट? वो माइनिंग कर देते और दैट माइनिंग वुड हैव लेड टू लैंड डिग्रेडेशन. राइट? सो causes of land degradation we are supposed to study. Apart from causes, what are the impacts? What are the impacts of land degradation? Will it have any impact on food security? Obviously yes, because land degradation, when we talk about land degradation, it is not only that forest land is getting degraded. Even the agricultural land is getting degraded because of overuse of fertilizers, overuse of water या irrigation. Right? Overuse of irrigation के वजह से क्या होता है? Land saline हो जाता है. Salinity of land increases and that's why the productivity of land decreases. Fine. So all those impacts we are supposed to study. Then we will be talking about solutions. And in solutions, we will be talking about the international solution in the form of UNCCD. UNCCD. What is UNCCD? It is United Nations Convention on combating desertification. जो मन में आया वो बोल दे. UNCCD. ठीक है? United Nations Convention on Combating Desertification, one of the important conventions along with UNCBD, UNFCCC. Right? हमने CBD के बारे में रेफर किया था. ठीक है? We also referred to UNFCCC, right? And one more important is this UNCC. ये 3 important conventions है जो आपको पता होने चाहिए. ठीक है? इनके COPs भी हम पढ़ेंगे, especially recent COPs, latest COPs. ठीक है? And then apart from UNCCD, we will also be talking about other initiatives like REDD and REDD plus. REDD and REDD plus. So यहाँ पे आप full form लिख सकते हो. Reduction of emissions from deforestation and forest degradation. Reduction of emissions from deforestation and forest degradation. Clear? So those are some important international initiatives that we will be referring to. Apart from that, even in India, we are taking some actions. In India also, we are taking some steps in order to reduce degradation. Any step that you can highlight? Afforestation. Afforestation through various schemes like Green India Mission. Okay. Afforestation through schemes like Green India Mission. So that we will be discussing. Then other initiatives are also there to prevent land degradation. For example, do we promote organic farming? We promote organic farming. So will it help us reduce land degradation? Yes, obviously. Right. Similarly, we are also promoting rational use of irrigation. आपने प्रधानमंत्री कृषि सिंचाई योजना के बारे में सुना है, राइट? हाँ, जो भी है सिंचाई, प्रधानमंत्री कृषि सिंचाई योजना, ठीक है. सो व्हाट इट इज? हाँ, किसने कहा था? हाँ, बताओ व्हाट इट इज, व्हाट इज द मोटो, व्हाट इज द टैगलाइन ऑफ दैट पर्टिकुलर स्कीम? Yes, that is what is the motto, right? Uska motto hai per drop more crop. So if we are promoting per drop more crop, is it not a rational use of irrigation? Is it not a rational use of water? Obviously yes. So अगर आप rationally water को use करेंगे, will it help us reduce the salinity of land? So that is also one of the schemes that will help us reduce land degradation. So those kind of schemes we will be talking about under land degradation. Clear? Fine. So that is what is the let's say syllabus or decoding of the syllabus for pollution, environmental pollution and degradation. Now let me refer to some questions from that particular topic. So questions are like this. So 2025 में question पूछा गया था about which of these contain plastic? Which of these contain plastic? ठीक है. So yes. So try to understand the type of question that UPSC is asking. ठीक है. UPSC is more interested in let's say pollution caused by different products. Plastic pollution से उनका अलग लगा. Because 2025 में ये प्लास्टिक पोल्यूशन के बारे में क्वेश्चन पूछा था. 2024 में च्युइंगम्स के बारे में क्वेश्चन पूछा था एंड दैट वाज आल्सो रिलेटेड टू प्लास्टिक पोल्यूशन. ठीक है. सो दैट इज वन क्वेश्चन. देन नेक्स्ट इज एक्टिवेटेड कार्बन is a so question is related to newer products that are being developed for reducing pollution. Activated carbon is a kind of carbon which has more surface area, which will be able to attach, which will be able to attract more pollutants. So अगर कोई नई टेक्नोलॉजी आ रही है for the reduction of pollution, that becomes important from the exams point of view. ठीक है. So question was asked in 2025 related to activated carbon and this was relatively difficult question to answer. क्योंकि often students ignore current affairs, right? How many of you have given attempts earlier? How many of you have given attempts earlier? No one? Fine. So let me tell you the pain point of students who are appearing for 2026. It is not static syllabus. स्टैटिक सिलेबस कभी प्रॉब्लम नहीं क्रिएट करेगा. क्यों? उसके सोर्सेस डिफाइंड है, राइट? उसके सोर्सेस आपको पता है. व्हाट वुड क्रिएट मोर प्रॉब्लम इज करंट अफेयर्स एंड दिस इज द स्टोरी एवरी ईयर. हर साल स्टूडेंट्स को सबसे ज्यादा दिक्कत होती है करंट अफेयर्स से एंड दैट्स व्हाई you should, when you want to appear for let's say 2027's examination, start once these classes are over. Start preparing for current affairs. डेली आपके दिन का एक स्लॉट करंट अफेयर्स के लिए होना चाहिए, बिकॉज दैट वुड नॉट ओनली हेल्प यू इन प्री, इट वुड ऑल्सो हेल्प यू इन मेन्स आंसर राइटिंग. फाइन, सो एक स्लॉट, डू नॉट पोस्टपोन थिंग्स. Often students, what they do, for example, those who are appearing in prelims examination this year, what they say, let's prepare for current affairs once institutes come up with annual compilations. Annual compilations आते हैं बहुत सारे institutes के, right? Monthly compilations तो है, but at the same time yearly compilations भी देते हैं बहुत ज़्यादा institutes, बहुत सारे institutes. So students wait for those annual compilations, unfortunately. And they try to, let's say, consume 12 months of current affairs in the span of 3 to 4 months. अगर आपको कहा गया कि 12 महीने का खाना 3-4 महीने में खा लीजिए, कैन यू डू दैट? It would lead to let's say problems with your digestion. नहीं होगा. Same is the case with current affairs. So do not allow current affairs to pile up. आप लोग हंस रहे हो आज, मे बी नेक्स्ट जनवरी फरवरी में रोंगे. सो मेक श्योर यू प्रिपेयर फॉर करंट अफेयर्स फ्रॉम टुडे इटसेल्फ, इफ नॉट टुडे फ्रॉम मे, क्योंकि आपका क्लास तब तक मे बी ओवर हो जाएगा, राइट? सो फ्रॉम मे यू कैन फोकस, क्योंकि आपका ये स्लॉट जो आपका इंस्टीट्यूट या कोचिंग में जाता है, दिस स्लॉट यू कैन डेडिकेट टू द करंट अफेयर्स पार्ट. दिस इज नॉट द थिंग दैट यू शुड लाफ एट. दिस इज वेरी सीरियस थिंग दैट आई एम टेलिंग यू. हर साल की कहानी है. फोकस ऑन करंट अफेयर्स राइट फ्रॉम द बिगिनिंग. ठीक है? सो दैट वाज द क्वेश्चन दे हैव आस्क्ड इन 25. नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन इज I think it was also in 25. So artificial way of causing rainfall. So someone talked about artificial rain. So which chemicals are used for artificial rain? That was the question they asked. Okay. So answer is A, silver and potassium iodide. Now again, in newspaper you may come across these kind of terms. Membrane biofilters. You may come across terms like greenwashing. You may come across terms like biorock technology. Right? You may come across terms like hard to abate sectors. Hard to abate sectors. UPSC is interested in these kind of terms. Okay, so membrane biofilters was the term that was in news in 2024. They asked question in 2024's prelims examination, right? Greenwashing was in news during earlier examination, and they asked question on greenwashing. और जब भी ऐसे terms वो pick and choose करेंगे from newspaper or any current affairs source, question more often than not would be a one-liner. One-liner questions are very difficult to answer if you do not know them. क्यों? क्योंकि अगर स्टेटमेंट बेस्ड क्वेश्चन होगा तो एक स्टेटमेंट में भी आपको पता हो सकता है, एंड दैट वुड हेल्प यू सॉल्व दैट एंटायर क्वेश्चन. बट सिंगल लाइनर क्वेश्चंस आर वेरी डिफिकल्ट इफ यू आर नॉट अवेयर ऑफ इट. ठीक है? ग्रीन वॉशिंग, ये क्या, आपको क्या लगता है ये ग्रीन वॉशिंग क्या होगा? किससे रिलेटेड होगा? इकोनॉमी से रिलेटेड है. राइट. सो ऑफन आप गवर्नेंस में एक टर्म सुनेंगे, वाइट वॉशिंग. गवर्नेंस में आप एक टर्म सुन सकते हैं, वाइट वॉशिंग. मतलब करप्शन है पर कुछ मेजर्स लेके वो करप्शन छुपाया जा रहा है, राइट? सो दैट इज कॉल्ड एज वाइट वॉशिंग. देर आर लेट्स से इरेगुलर प्रैक्टिसेस इन ए पर्टिकुलर ऑर्गेनाइजेशन, पर कुछ वाइट वॉशिंग करके वो प्रैक्टिसेस छुपाई जाती है. दैट इज कॉल्ड एज वाइट वॉशिंग. सेम इज द टर्म ग्रीन वॉशिंग. There are organizations which are emitting lots of greenhouse gases, but by some kind of greenwashing, they hide those emitting practices, and they showcase themselves as green organizations, but in reality they are not. That is called as greenwashing, right? इस term से आपको क्या समझ में आता है? Biorock technology. Right. Right. So biorock technology is a technology that is used for the conservation of coral reef ecosystem. Right? बहुत simple question था. Biorock technology is sometimes seen in the news. It is related to which of the following? That's it. Same, greenwashing sometimes seen in the news is what? Right? ये जो question पूछा है, membrane bioreactors are often discussed in the context of which of the following? So these kind of questions are asked, and if you are following current affairs through newspaper or through monthly magazines regularly, you will be aware of these kind of terms. ठीक है? So answer छोड़ दीजिए, but answer is wastewater treatment technologies. Same is the case with hard to abate sectors. Now, once upon a time, UPSC asked a question: which of the following sectors are included under इंडेक्स ऑफ इंडस्ट्रियल प्रोडक्शन? IIP करके एक इंडेक्स आता है इकोनॉमी में, आपको पता होगा. आर यू अवेयर ऑफ दैट? फाइन. सो देयर इज वन इंडेक्स कॉल्ड एज इंडेक्स फॉर इंडस्ट्रियल प्रोडक्शन, IIP, जिसमें 8 सेक्टर्स है. 8 सेक्टर्स है. यूपीएससी ने क्वेश्चन पूछा था, विच ऑफ द फॉलोइंग सेक्टर्स आर कंसिडर्ड while calculating IIP. ठीक है? Now they may ask question on hard to abate sectors. Which of the following sectors are considered as hard to abate sectors? And this kind of knowledge, this kind of information is there in the newspaper. So read newspaper. It is very important from the exams point of view. It not only gives you content, it will also shape your perspective. Right? जो आंसर लिखने के लिए आपको स्टैंड लेना जरूरी है, या जो भी आपका एज अ पर्सन जो पर्सपेक्टिव डेवलप होना जरूरी है, दैट वुड डेवलप बेस्ड अपॉन न्यूज़पेपर. अदरवाइज अगर आप इंस्टाग्राम या व्हाट्सएप पे रिलाय रह गए, तो आपका पर्सपेक्टिव ऐसे डेवलप हो जाएगा विच वुड बी एग्जैक्टली अपोजिट दैट इज रिक्वायर्ड बाय यूपीएससी. सो rely lesser on those let's say the information coming from Instagram and all. Try to rely on information coming from these authentic sources. Okay? So that is what is the question. Next is again 2024 ka question. It is related to per fluoroalkyl and polyfluoroalkyl substances, PFAS. Per and polyfluoroalkyl substances are used, for example, जो हमारे non-stick pans होते हैं. Why they are non-stick pans? Because of these substances, right? Often there are you must have heard about that. There are scratch-free, let's say, vehicles जिनमें scratch नहीं आएगा. Why those scratches would not occur? Because they have coating of these substances. ठीक है? But unfortunately, these are pollutants as well. अगर उनमें कुछ ऑयल का, हीट का कुछ इम्पैक्ट नहीं हो रहा है, obviously they are very difficult to degrade naturally, and if they are difficult to degrade naturally, they will remain accumulated in the environment, leading to pollution. Okay, so that was the question related to per and polyfluoroalkyl substances, PFAS. Clear? Next is 2024. So the question I was referring to, chewing gums, and it is related to plastic. Okay, chewing gums and plastic pollution, connection of chewing gums was asked in 2020. Clear? So try to understand the questions that UPSC is trying to ask, and that would help you prepare for this particular examination. And that's why go through PYQs. Often try to see PYQs, what they are asking in PYQs, so that you can channelize your energy in the right direction. Fine. And then they have asked question in the mains examination as well. And this question was related to industrial pollution of river water. Industrial pollution of river water. Now, is it very difficult for you to answer this particular question? So question is, industrial pollution of river water is a significant environmental issue in India. Is it a significant environmental issue? Can you write examples? Exactly. Right? Yamuna river pollution is primarily because of industrial wastewater. राइट जो भी इंडस्ट्रीज है फरीदाबाद में, गुड़गांव में या गाजियाबाद में, वो सारा उनका जो वेस्ट प्रोडक्ट है, वेस्ट वाटर है, दे पुट इट इन यमुना एंड दैट लीड्स टू पोल्यूशन. राइट? यू कैन इवन ऐड एग्जांपल्स ऑफ गंगा. रिवर गंगा इज पोल्यूटेड बिकॉज ऑफ द टैनरीज दैट वी हैव इन कानपुर. राइट? टैनरीज, लेदर इंडस्ट्री है कानपुर में, and that leads to pollution in river Ganga. So you can write answers related to this kind of question. So pollution, and that's why I told you pollution is not very difficult to understand. You can write answers as well, but what is more difficult is to solve MCQs. Okay? So discuss the various mitigation measures to deal with this problem and also government's initiative in this regard. So based on general understanding, these kind of questions can be answered. Okay. Next. Now, last topic that we will be referring to is the fifth topic, and that is environmental impact assessment. Environmental impact assessment. This is the smallest topic that they have mentioned in the syllabus. Okay, environmental impact assessment. So here, what you are supposed to study, you are supposed to study about the concept, stages of EIA as per the EIA notification of 2006. Stages in the EIA as per, yes, Teflon coating it is, right. Stages of EIA as per the EIA notification 2006. Then problems in EIA, and lastly solutions. Problems in EIA and lastly solutions. Please ask you a question once more, Shreya. Okay, so these are the topics that you have to study under environmental impact assessment. Clear? होता क्या है EIA? What is EIA? Environmental impact assessment. Right, right. So before a particular, let's say in this area, you want to come up with a project. What would be the impact of this particular project on this area? You will try to assess before that project is initiated. That process is called as environmental impact assessment. Right? किसी भी project का environment पे, social aspects पे क्या negative impact होने वाला है या हो सकता है या positive impact हो सकता है, that you try to understand under EI. Right? So is it a good tool? Obviously yes, it is a good tool. Fine. But despite this good tool, do we see environmental degradation in India? Right? Fine. For example, despite the EIA, we have the project called as Great Nicobar project, where lots of trees would be cut. Okay? That means there are problems in EIA. अगर EIA के बावजूद कुछ environmental degradation हो रहा है, that means there are problems. Fine. And then we will also have to find out the solutions to overcome those problems. Fine. So that is the topic. And this topic, till now, they have not asked any question in prelims examination. It is mentioned in the main syllabus, and exclusively mains questions have been asked from EIA. Clear? So let me show you the question. So this was the question that they have asked in 2024. So what role do environmental NGOs and activists play in influencing environmental impact assessment outcomes for major projects in India? Right? Now this is not very difficult to write till this point. Right? ये आप लिख सकते हो. What is more difficult is cite 4 examples with important details. This part is making environment and ecology questions difficult. Examples. हर क्वेश्चन में 2-3 क्वेश्चन 2-3 एग्जाम्पल्स पूछे जा रहे हैं, राइट? एंड examples are not like, let's say, random examples. You have to write the important details, the specific examples you will have to write. ऐसे examples आपको कहाँ मिल सकते हैं? इंस्टाग्राम पे, न्यूज़पेपर, इंस्टाग्राम पे मिलेंगे. That is the importance of न्यूज़पेपर में मिलेगा ये थी. No one can predict questions, and that's why you have to prepare in a holistic manner, and that holistic preparation is possible with the help of newspaper. Okay, so that is what is the question that they have asked, and those are the questions. Fine, I hope it is clear to you. Okay, next now the sixth topic we have mentioned. Did we mention sixth topic? Fine, so let me add, it is environmental governance. This is not there in your syllabus, but we have to study it. Environmental governance. Okay, so what we will be doing, different acts that we refer to in different sections, we will be studying here, right? So for example, we'll be talking about WPA 1972. ठीक है, आप इतना ऐसा नजदीक नजदीक क्यों बैठे हो? इतनी जगह है, 6 लोग ऐसा बैठे हैं कि एकदम पैक. ठीक है, नो प्रॉब्लम. Wildlife Protection Act 1972, then FCA 1980, Forest Conservation Act 1980, Forest Conservation Act 1980, then Biological Diversity Act 2002. We have referred to this, right? We have referred to this act. What we have not referred to is FRA. FRA year, Forest Rights Act. FRA stands for Forest Rights Act 2006. Next, NGT Act. Right. NGT is National Green Tribunal Act 2010. NGT Act 2010. Okay. Then we also referred to CAMPA. CAMPA कोला नहीं. CAMPA Act, Compensatory Afforestation Fund Act 2016. Okay. So we have referred to WPA, FCA, BDA. FRA we will be talking about. We will be talking about NGT, and CAMPA also we have already referred to. Along with that, we will be talking about Water Act 1974, Water Act, Air Act 1981, and then EPA 1986. EPA 1986 we will be referring to. Okay, so that would be environmental governance part. I hope it is clear to you. Clear hai? Fine. So no direct questions have been asked, but questions have been asked in different topics. For example, we have already referred to the question asked on WPA. Okay. So similarly, questions have been asked on BDA, FCA as well. NGT पे भी question पूछा गया है. Question has also been asked on Water Act. Fine. So that is what is the blueprint of the syllabus. Clear? Fine. So I hope you have idea that what we will be discussing in our next classes. So that would help you study that topic beforehand. Right? आपको पूछने की जरूरत नहीं कि अगले क्लास में कौन सा टॉपिक होने वाला है. You will be aware कि कौन सा टॉपिक होगा next class में. Fine. Let us start with our discussion of the subject. And firstly, we will be starting with environmental ecology. Environmental ecology. Okay. Now, often this topic is covered during NCERT classes. NCERT classes में हम लोग ज़्यादा focus करते हैं इस topic पे. पर most of you have not taken NCERT classes. जिन्होंने लिए भी है उनको याद भी नहीं है क्या पढ़ाया था, right? So we will be talking about this environmental ecology part again. Those who have already done NCERT classes, consider this as revision for you. Okay? So let us start with this. Now there are two terms that you can see. First is environment and second is ecology. What exactly do we mean by environment? What is environment? Environment is surrounding. Is this surrounding empty? Right? Whenever we talk about environment, we are talking it from the perspective of a particular organism. Right? Environment for that organism is its surrounding. But this surrounding consists of, it consists of abiotic components. It consists of abiotic components. Right? ये easy part है तो simultaneously लिखे. So how you have to let's say take notes. Whatever I am writing on the digital board, you have to write in your notes. ठीक है? And preferably, let's say अगर ये आपकी notes है, तो make sure you write only in this part. Right? Only in this part. Leave this space empty so that you can add current affairs. You can add additional topics that you come across here. राइट बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है आगे जाके यू वोंट बी एबल टू लेट्स से मेक सेपरेट नोट्स फॉर करंट अफेयर्स फॉर एनवायरमेंट एंड इकोलॉजी सो लीव स्पेस यहाँ पे थोड़ी कंजूसी छोड़ दीजिए कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ता है राइट ठीक है सो मेक श्योर यू लीव दिस पर्टिकुलर स्पेस abiotic components are there in the surrounding and along with abiotic components we also have presence of biotic components ठीक है abiotic means non-living. Abiotic means non-living and biotic means living components. ठीक है but is it the case that these components are living in isolation to each other? As we discuss in this particular classroom, are we interacting with some abiotic components? Obviously yes, right? For example, we are interacting with gases that are present in this particular air, right? Had there been sunlight, we would have interacted with sunlight as well, right? That means these components are constantly interacting with each other, right? There is a constant interaction going on between biotic and abiotic components, and because of this constant interaction, life or survival is possible. Life or survival is possible because of this interaction. Okay, so that is what is environment. That is what is environment. Environment is the surrounding in which abiotic components and biotic components are interacting constantly, and because of this interaction, life or survival of the living organisms is possible. That is what is the definition of environment. Clear hai? Fine, simple it is, simple term it is. So environment is nothing but surrounding. Clear? Fine. Now, along with environment, we have another term, and that is ecology. What is ecology? Study of environment. Fine. So this term ecology is made up of two terms, and those are oikos and logos. Oikos and logos. Oikos means home. Oikos means home. Logos means study of. So literally, ecology means study of home. But what is home of living organisms? Home of living organisms is environment. So what is ecology? Ecology is a scientific study of environment. Along with interaction between biotic and abiotic components. Biotic and abiotic components. Okay, that is ecology. It is a scientific study of environment along with interaction going on between biotic and abiotic components. Okay, so that is what is ecology. This term was coined by one biologist named Ernst Haeckel in 1869. Ernst Haeckel, right? So ये PCS में पूछे जाते हैं ऐसे questions. Ecology is the term coined by, not important for UPSC, but it can be asked for PCS examination. Okay, fine. Now in ecology, what do we study? We study environment, right? This study of environment can be carried out at different levels, which we have referred to while referring to the blueprint of the syllabus. So those levels are, so next point, ecological study. Ecological study can be carried out at 6 different levels. Called levels of ecological organization. Called levels of ecological organization. So firstly we will list those levels and then we'll study them one by one. So first level is individual, which is also referred as organism. Then population, then community, then ecosystem, biomes, and lastly biosphere. So this chapter is based on these 6 levels. Okay, we will be talking about these levels one by one, starting with individual. So you can give next subheading individual. You can give next subheading individual. ठीक है, सिंपल है अभी तक, there is no problem here. Now when we study individual level, what exactly is our focus? When we study individual, we study how this individual is interacting with the abiotic components and how does it respond when those abiotic components change. So you can write here, we study the importance of different abiotic components, and how individual would respond to changing abiotic components. Right? So that would be the focus when we study this particular level. Importance of abiotic components for that individual and how it would respond to the changing abiotic components. So firstly, we'll be talking obviously about the importance. So first, importance of abiotic components. and we'll take different abiotic components one at a time, and we'll try to understand the importance of that abiotic component. So firstly, temperature. First abiotic component that we will be referring to is temperature. What is the importance of temperature in the life of individual? No, when we talk about temperature, we are not talking about body temperature. We are talking about external temperature. Because we are discussing abiotic components. Huh. What is the importance of temperature? Huh. Survival. Fine. But that would be true for all the abiotic factors. टेम्परेचर का ऐसा क्या इंपॉर्टेंस है हमारे लाइफ में? टेम्परेचर सस्टेन्स लाइफ, ठीक है. प्रेशर डिफरेंस इन एनवायरमेंट. Again that pressure difference would be another abiotic component. I am asking how that temperature is important for us. It makes environment suitable for, fine. अगर environment suitable हो रहा है तो क्या वो suitable factor है जो हमारे बॉडी के अंदर क्रिएट हो रहा है या हमारे बॉडी में इन्फ्लुएंस हो रहा है बिकॉज ऑफ दैट टेम्परेचर? Fine. So when we have appropriate temperature, in the external environment, that has its influence on kinetics of our body fluids. हमारे बॉडी फ्लूइड्स प्रॉपरली फ्लो होंगे अगर हमारे पास एक्सटर्नल एनवायरनमेंट में सूटेबल टेम्परेचर होगा. Right? So that is what is the importance of temperature. It is not only important for the kinetics of the body fluids, it will also determine the basal metabolism of our body. Basal metabolism मतलब क्या? Basal metabolism means when you are at rest, your body is carrying out some functions which are necessary for its survival. Right? For example, आप ब्लैंकेट में अच्छे से सोए हुए हो, but still you are carrying out the activity of respiration. Right? So breathing is carried out. Does it need energy? Right? Secondly, in that particular state, when you are lying in your bed, along with respiration, there would be another functions like cell growth will be carried out by the body. Cell growth hoga, right? Nerve functions will also be carried out. Right? All these, even blood circulation is carried out. All these functions need some energy. That energy is called as basal metabolism. Right? For all these basic activities, whatever energy is required is called as basal metabolism. That energy requirement is influenced by temperature. Okay, that energy requirement is influenced by temperature. Fine. So what is the importance of temperature in our life? You can write, it is important for kinetics. Kinetics means movement. Kinetics of body fluids and for basal metabolism of an individual. Basal metabolism of an individual. ठीक है. For kinetics, in bracket you can write movement. For kinetics you can write movement, and for basal metabolism you can write basic body functions. Please write down basal metabolism के लिए bracket में लिखना है basic body functions like breathing, blood circulation, cell growth, nerve functions, etc. राइट, सो पहला स्टेटमेंट क्या लिखा था बेसल मेटाबॉलिज्म के लिए? बेसिक बॉडी फंक्शंस लाइक दीज and the energy required for them, and the energy required for them is what we call as basal metabolism. So basal metabolism is influenced by temperature and the energy required for them. ठीक है? So why temperature is important? Temperature is important for the proper flow of body fluids in our body, and secondly it is important for the basal metabolism. अगर temperature ज़्यादा होगा कम होगा, that will have its influence on the energy required for our basic body functions. That would be influenced by temperature. Clear? Are you able to understand this point? Right? This is the importance of temperature in the individual's life. ठीक है? And that's why, as temperature is important for these activities, we have only specific type of organism in a specific environment. Mango will grow only in tropical areas, subtropical areas. It will not be there in temperate area. क्यों? क्योंकि मैंगो की ग्रोथ के लिए, मैंगो के बेसल मेटाबॉलिज्म के लिए, मैंगो के काइनेटिक्स के लिए जो भी टेम्परेचर चाहिए वो कहाँ पे मिल रहा है उसे? ट्रॉपिकल एरियाज में. फाइन. टूना फिश is found only in tropical areas, not found only in tropical waters, not in temperate waters. Again, same reason. ठीक है? But at the same time, though we are saying that temperature is important factor, whenever we say temperature, it is not that we are talking only about a particular temperature. Generally, we talk about range of temperature. Right? ऐसा नहीं कि फिक्स हाँ 40 डिग्री के आसपास ही आप सर्वाइव कर पाओगे, नहीं तो नहीं कर पाओगे. It is not the case. Right? So based upon the range of organisms, we have two types of organisms like, so you can add this point, next point. It is the range of temperature. It is the range of temperature that is important for the survival. Of organisms, of individual. Right? When we talk about temperature, we are not talking about any specific temperature. ऐसा पॉसिबल ही नहीं है कि कोई ऑर्गेनिज्म किसी स्पेसिफिक टेम्परेचर पे ही सर्वाइव कर रहा है. राइट? फॉर एग्जांपल ह्यूमन बींग्स, अभी टेम्परेचर है मान लेते हैं लेस देन 10 डिग्री सेल्सियस राइट नाउ, बट दिस लेस देन 10 डिग्री सेल्सियस टेम्परेचर will change as we approach months like May, June, etc. Right? So it is not that we are talking about a particular fixed temperature. We are talking about range of temperature. Now, next point. Based on range, there are two types of organisms. Based on range, there are two types of organisms. Now, these terms are important from the exam's point of view. Based on range, there are two types of organisms. First is stenothermal. First is stenothermal. What are stenothermal? Right. Organisms that can tolerate narrow range of temperature. Narrow range of temperature. Temperature, please explain temperature and its importance once again. Fine. See, temperature is one of the abiotic factor that is important for the survival of individual. How it is important? It decides two things. First, flow of body fluids in our body. If we have appropriate temperature in our body, it would allow the body fluids to flow properly. You must have heard about multi-organ failure. right? Multi-organ failure. For example, during COVID-19, this term was very popular, right? Often you must have come across the news that because of multi-organ failure, this particular person has passed away, right? So why multi-organ failure occur? It occurs because of the lack of proper kinetics, proper movement of body fluids, right? जो भी blood supply different body fluids, body parts को चाहिए, अगर वो नहीं पहुंचा, that will compromise the functioning of that particular organ, leading to multi-organ failure, right? So kinetics will determine the functioning of organs first. Secondly, temperature is also important because it will determine what is the basic amount of energy that is required for that organism's survival, right? For example, जो भी बेसिक एक्टिविटीज़ है, जैसे हमने रेफर किया था, ब्रीदिंग की एक्टिविटी, ब्लड सर्कुलेशन की एक्टिविटी, सेल ग्रोथ की एक्टिविटी, नर्व्स के फंक्शनिंग की एक्टिविटी, क्योंकि मान लेते जब आप सो रहे हो, यू विल बी कैरिंग आउट सम काइंड ऑफ एक्टिविटीज. फॉर एग्जांपल, कोई मच्छर आपके आसपास होगा तो यू विल बी डूइंग समथिंग लाइक दिस, right? You will be trying to you will try to shoo that mosquito away, right? So all these activities need energy. That is what is basal metabolism. Basal metabolism is determined by temperature. अगर temperature कम ज़्यादा होता है, the basic function required, the energy required for the basic functions of body would also change, right? So that is what is the importance. I hope it is clear. Fine. Now, coming back to this, so stenothermal, these are those organisms that can live only in a narrow temperature range. You can write examples. Coral polyps. Coral polyps. What are coral polyps? Right. These are organisms that we have in seas and oceans, right? You must have came across the term जो हम डिटेल में आगे जाके पढ़ेंगे, कोरल रीफ इकोसिस्टम, राइट? तो कोरल रीफ इकोसिस्टम किसका बना हुआ होता है? स्केलेटन का बना हुआ होता है, राइट? इट इज मेड अप ऑफ स्केलेटन. स्केलेटन मीन्स जो भी लेफ्ट ओवर पार्ट होता है, बोन्स एंड ऑल, बोन्स एंड कार्टिलेजेस ऑफ दैट पर्टिकुलर ऑर्गेनिज्म विल फॉर्म स्केलेटन. तो जो स्केलेटन से बना हुआ होता है कोरल रीफ्स, वो स्केलेटन किसका होता है? इट इज ऑफ सम ऑर्गेनिजम्स एंड दोज ऑर्गेनिजम्स आर कोरल पॉलिप्स. ठीक है? This coral reef ecosystem is formed with the symbiotic association between coral polyps and some algae that we will refer to later. ठीक है? उन दोनों के साथ में आने के कारण वो coral reef ecosystem बना हुआ होता है. ठीक है? So coral polyps is one example. You can write other examples: stenothermal, fishes, amphibians, etc. Coral polyps, fishes, amphibians are considered as stenothermal. They can tolerate only a short temperature range. For example, coral polyps का अगर आप example लेंगे, it can survive only at around 25 degrees Celsius temperature, not beyond that. And that's why climate change is a threat to these kind of organisms. And if climate change is threatening coral polyps, then it would also be a threat to aquatic ecosystem as such. क्यों? क्योंकि फर्स्ट लेक्चर में मैंने कहा था आपको 25% ऑफ एक्वेटिक ऑर्गेनिजम्स लिव इन और अराउंड कोरल रीफ्स. फाइन. एंड दैट्स व्हाई दैट वुड बी ए थ्रेट. ग्लोबल वार्मिंग, क्लाइमेट चेंज वुड बी ए थ्रेट. ठीक है? So that is first type of organism that can tolerate only narrow range of temperature. Clear है? Second type of organisms are eurythermal. Eurythermal. What are eurythermal organisms? Organisms that can tolerate broad temperature range. That can tolerate broad temperature range. Example: humans, we can live at 50, not 50, let's say 45 degrees Celsius. We can live at minus 10, minus 20 degrees Celsius as well. So humans are there, monkeys, cows, mostly mammals, you can say, mostly mammals, goats, etc. ठीक है? So they are referred as eurythermal. Clear hai? Fine. So that is what is the first factor, temperature, and its importance for living organisms, its importance for individual. Clear? Fine. Yes. Any doubt? Fine. Next. Next is next abiotic component that has its influence on individual is water. Water. 48 डिग्री सेल्सियस पर भी ठीक है, 48 पे भी. So water, why water is important for producer? Why water is important for producers? For the activity of photosynthesis. Photosynthesis. Any other? Hmm? Maintenance of body temperature. Fine. Thermal flow, thermal stability would be maintained by distributing temperature of a particular part to different parts through water. So it is also important for thermoregulation. Water is important for thermoregulation. Now, जो न्यूट्रिएंट्स प्लांट्स के पास आते हैं वो कहाँ से आते हैं? सॉइल से आते हैं, रूट से आते हैं. बट दोज न्यूट्रिएंट्स मे बी यूटिलाइज समवेयर एल्स ओनली. So that flow of nutrients is also through water, right? There would be a pressure that would be produced by water that will allow the minerals to flow up towards the, let's say, leaves and branches where those nutrients would be utilized. So for distribution of absorbed nutrients. But is it the case that only nutrients would be flowing? There might be flow of food as well, right? So distribution of absorbed nutrients and energy, food energy prepared. Food energy prepared. Okay. So this kind of flow of nutrients and food energy would occur through tissues like xylem and phloem, right? वो आपने पढ़ा होगा जनरल साइंस में, ठीक है? So that is what are the producer. That is what is the importance of water for producers. Now, is it important for consumers? Is it important for consumers? For what purpose? For formation of blood. For formation of blood. There is a part in blood called as plasma. There is a part in blood called as plasma. More than 90% of that plasma is water, right? Almost 92% of that plasma is water, right? So for blood formation, we need water. Similarly, it is also required for thermoregulation. It is also required for thermoregulation. Now, does water specifically carry out thermoregulation in organisms? Yeah, in consumers? Not water specifically. It is carried out by blood. But for blood, do we need water? Yes, and that's why. ठीक है, ऐसा नहीं कि पानी फ्लो हो रहा है आपके नर्व, आपके ब्लड वेसल्स से. It is blood that flows, but blood consists of water, and that's why in thermoregulation, water has its role. Same is the case with flow of nutrients. Process of digestion, etc. Okay, for all these activities, we need water. Clear? Fine, done. Next. Now, when we talk about water, it is not only about quantity of water, right? Quantity of water is required, is important. Sufficient amount of water is important, but at the same time, what is more important is its quality, right? Quality of water is more important, and the most important factor that determine the quality of water is its salinity, right? So it is the salinity of water that plays an important role in in use of water by individuals. Next point, this quality is determined by salinity. This quality is determined by salinity. What is salinity? It is the amount of dissolved salts. Salinity is the amount of dissolved salts. Okay. Now, next point. Based on range of tolerance of salinity, there are two organisms. There are two types of organisms. Okay. Based on the range of tolerance of salinity, we have two types of organisms, and that those terms are very similar to the terms that we have referred for temperature, and they are stenohaline. They are stenohaline. First is stenohaline. Stenohaline क्या होगा? Narrow range of salinity tolerance. So these are those organisms that have narrow salinity tolerance range. Narrow salinity tolerance range. Okay. Examples you can write. Examples are, so obviously when we talk about salinity, or when we talk about stenohaline and euryhaline, we are referring to aquatic organisms. So examples are, just a minute, goldfish, haddock, HADDOCK, haddock. Then corals, frogs, coral, frogs, etc. Okay. So that term is called as stenohaline. Next is euryhaline. Euryhaline. What are euryhaline organisms? They have broad range of salinity tolerance. Broad range of salinity tolerance. Examples you can write: eels, herrings, salmon, SALMON, estuarine crocodile, estuarine crocodile, estuarine crab, etc. एस्चुराइन क्रोकोडाइल, एस्चुराइन क्रैब एक्सेट्रा। ठीक है, सो आई होप यू आर अवेयर ऑफ दिस टर्म एस्चुरी, राइट? ज्योग्राफी हो गया अभी। व्हाट इज एस्चुरी? हाँ, क्या? अच्छा, ओनली वर्ल्ड ज्योग्राफी में नहीं आता है क्या? लैंड फॉर्म्स हो गया। अच्छा फाइन, ठीक है, फिर भी आप बता सकते हो, ऐसा नहीं कि क्लासरूम में हुआ तो ही बताना है। Estuary is that area where river puts its water into sea or ocean, right? ऐसे एरिया को हम कहते हैं एस्चुरी, जहां पे रिवर समंदर के साथ दे मीट, नॉट डेल्टा, डेल्टा इज अ डिफरेंट थिंग ऑल टुगेदर, right? Not every area where river meets water is delta, right? ऐसे कुछ एरियाज है जहां पे रिवर अपना पानी ड्रॉप करते हैं, when they drop their water in the sea or ocean, that area is called as estuary। ठीक है, जो डेल्टा है दैट इज फॉर्म्ड बाय फॉर्मिंग डिस्ट्रीब्यूटरीज, राइट? डिस्ट्रीब्यूटरीज फॉर्म होते हैं, ये हो जाएगा ज्योग्राफी में हो जाएगा। ठीक है, सो नॉट एवरी एरिया वेयर रिवर मीट्स इज डेल्टा। ठीक है, कुछ एरिया में डेल्टा फॉर्मेशन नहीं देखने को मिलता है आपको। फॉर एग्जाम्पल, विच रिवर्स इन इंडिया फॉर्म एस्चुरीज? नर्मदा एंड तापी। नर्मदा तापी एस्चुरी फॉर्म करती है, बट ऑन द अदर हैंड द रिवर्स लाइक कावेरी, कृष्णा, गोदावरी, गंगा एक्सेट्रा फॉर्म डेल्टा। ठीक है, सो दैट इज डिफरेंट, वो हो जाएगा आपको बाद में। सो जस्ट रिमेंबर राइट नाउ, estuary is that area where river puts its water in sea or ocean। ठीक है, so that is what is the importance of water as a factor। clear है? next, third factor is light, that is sunlight। light या sunlight। now what is the importance of light for producers? obviously no prize for guessing। apart from photosynthesis, is there any other activity that is influenced by light in plants, in producers? Huh? Transpiration। ठीक है, transpiration, fine। transpiration, what is transpiration? it is the loss of water from the plant body, right? जब भी photosynthesis carry out करना होगा तो स्टोमाटा ओपन करना पड़ेगा, right, for the exchange of gas। as stomata is opened, if the sunlight is intense, from that stomata opening even there will be loss of water। that process is called as transpiration। okay, so transpiration is also influenced by sunlight। any other? energy, but energy is coming from this activity, right? seed germination, vegetation। आपको क्वेश्चन समझ में आया है? question is how light या sunlight influences producers। exactly, so that point we'll write towards the end because it is for both producers as well as consumers, right? light या sunlight has its influence on temperature, and we have already discussed that temperature is important for determining kinetics and basal metabolism। so वो point हम last में लिखेंगे। ठीक है, प्रिसाइजली स्पेसिफिकली प्रोड्यूसर्स पे क्या इम्पैक्ट है लाइट का, दैट इज व्हाट आई एम आस्किंग। इम्पैक्ट इज इन द फॉर्म ऑफ photosynthesis, that if let's say sunlight is bright enough, photosynthesis rate would be more, transpirational loss would be more if sunlight is bright। any other activity? as she has pointed out, one more activity is seed germination। for the germination of seed there would be need of sunlight। sunlight would be needed for the activities like germination of seed। germination of seed मतलब क्या? yes, बताइए आप। हाँ, आप कोई भी बता दीजिए, इकट्ठा ही है आप तो इकट्ठा ही बता दीजिए। what is germination of seed? It is growth of new plant from seed. ठीक है, फॉर एग्जाम्पल जो स्प्राउट्स होते हैं, सो इट इज वेरी सिमिलर टू दैट, यू कैन कंसिडर इट्स वेरी सिमिलर टू दैट. ठीक है, सो जर्मिनेशन ऑफ सीड इज इन्फ्लुएंस्ड बाय सनलाइट. अपार्ट फ्रॉम दिस, क्यों मैंने आपको पॉइंट आउट किया, बिकॉज यू आर टॉकिंग अमंग्स योरसेल्फ, प्लीज फोकस हियर. ठीक है, फाइन. यहां से बहुत क्लियरली आप सामने ही बैठे हो, राइट. सो अपार्ट फ्रॉम जर्मिनेशन ऑफ सीड, even flowering and fruiting are the activities that are influenced by sunlight. Is it the case that we get mango throughout the year? Why we get only in that particular season? Because of the sunlight, right? Sunlight has its influence on temperature. That point we will be writing towards the end. ठीक है, so कुछ flowers, कुछ fruits किसी specific season में ही आते हैं, because that season more often than not is determined by the availability of sunlight. Clear, everyone? Fine. Now, apart from producers, even consumers are influenced by sunlight. So what is the importance of sunlight for consumers? Nutrition, right? Vitamin D we get from sunlight, not get from sunlight, but it is let's say synthesized in the presence of sunlight, right? So nutrition. Any other? Huh? Migration, fine. For example, those Siberian cranes, right? Siberian cranes are right now in Kevla Devghana National Park. They are there in Chilka Lake, right? Why only in this season they have arrived there? Why not in May? Why not in May, or in the month of May or June they will come in India? Because conditions are harsh in their native habitat. वो जो साइबेरियन क्रेन्स है उनका नेटिव हैबिटेट कौन सा है? साइबेरिया, नाम में ही है साइबेरियन क्रेन. रशिया इज देयर नेटिव हैबिटेट. Right now conditions are extremely cold in that particular area, and that's why to escape from that area they have moved to the lesser harsh conditions which are available in countries like India. And that's why we can say even migration is influenced by sunlight. Clear? Fine. Apart from migration, even sporaging, that means not foraging, sorry, foraging, search for food, search for food. Foraging is the activity that is search for food, that is also carried out in a particular season which is determined by sunlight. Can we spot ants in this particular season? No. Why? Because right now they are resting in their home. Why? Because they have worked hard during summer season, right? They have gathered food. Movies में या cartoons में आपने देखा होगा, right? They gather their food during the favorable season and they rest during this particular season, right? So that is again determined by sunlight. Yes. That is what is the point that we'll be writing towards the end, that sunlight has its influence on temperature as well. Okay, वो point लिखने वाले. Fine. So these are the activities. Even breeding. Even breeding is the activity that is determined by, that is influenced by sunlight, right? Only in certain season there would be breeding carried out by certain consumers. So that is again the result of sunlight. Clear? So these are the activities for which sunlight is important. Death. ठंड में ज्यादा लोग मरते हैं. ऑब्वियसली अगर मान लेते हैं सनलाइट एक्सेसिवली ज्यादा है, एक्सेसिवली कम है, या एनी अदर फैक्टर, भी वाटर के लिए फ्लड्स क्यों नहीं बोला आपने? हाँ, नो, सी obviously these factors have their role in let's say death, provided those factors become extreme, right? But we are talking about the significance. Death Is it a significance? Right? We are talking about the significance of these factors for living organisms. So death significance kaise hoga? Right? We are talking about the survival and you are saying death. Okay? Fine. So these are the activities that are influenced. Groundwater level. Fine, you can add rainfall. But see, rainfall is again abiotic component. Right? Rainfall is again abiotic component. These are the components that are related to living organisms. We see, आप topic को छोड़िए मत. Topic is importance of abiotic components for individual. Right? So these are the let's say importance. This is the importance of light in the life of producers and consumers. एक point लिखिए last में. Even temperature is influenced by sunlight. Even temperature is influenced by sunlight. Okay, fine. Now one more point that I would like to add here, or if you want to write, you can write it on your own. See, whatever sunlight we are getting, it is not that all sunlight would be useful, would be used by living organisms, right? जो भी sunlight आ रहा है, जो भी sunlight आ रहा है earth पे, of that only 50% is photosynthetically active radiations. Only 50% is photosynthetically active radiations. मतलब क्या? जो भी सनरेज आ रहे हैं उससे उनमें से सिर्फ 50% हम यूज कर सकते हैं फॉर द एक्टिविटी ऑफ फोटोसिंथेसिस. राइट? प्लांट्स सिर्फ 50% यूज कर सकते हैं फॉर फोटोसिंथेसिस. फाइन. बट of this 50%, plants use only 2 to 10%. Plants only use 2 to 10% of photosynthetically active radiations for the activity of photosynthesis. You can imagine what is the amount of energy that is surviving life on earth. Entire sunlight is not surviving life on earth. There would be a part of sunlight that would be harmful. For example, UV radiations, they are harmful for us. Fine. So only 50% of the sunlight is PAR, photosynthetically active radiations, and of that 50%, 2 to 10% would be used by the living organism, by the producers for the activity of photosynthesis, which in turn survives consumers as well. Clear? So that is the third factor, light. Then the next one is, now for light and next soil, we do not have those terms like URI, steno. Okay? So what is the importance of soil for producers? It is a source of nutrients. It is also important for gases, for roots. Roots take gases from soil itself. जो भी soil है उसका लगभग 50% क्या होता है? Water and gases. Right? जो भी soil है उसका 50% water and gases होते हैं. 45% of that soil is minerals, which are useful for us, and 5% of that soil is organic matter. ठीक है? So जो भी gases चाहिए roots को, वो कहाँ से आ रहे? From soil. ठीक है? Right? So any other importance for producers? ठीक है? Provide stability. Right? Soil has its own strength, and that strength provides stability to producers. Okay, so that is also one of the importance. Any other? I think that is enough. Next is consumers. What is the importance of soil for consumers? For, again, we get our, let's say, nutrients from soil, right? Nutrients we receive from soil, though indirectly from plants. Then it also acts as a shelter for animals. For number of animals, it acts as a shelter, right? It is also a breeding ground. It is also a breeding ground for animals or consumers. Okay? So that is what is the importance of soil. Any other factor that you can add? Soil का importance क्या है living organisms के लिए? No? इतना ही है? Fine. So these are some important abiotic factors that have its influence on individual. कौन से डिस्कस किए हमने? कौन से रेफर किए थे हमने? टेम्परेचर, वाटर, light, and soil. Now, these components, these abiotic components, are they constant or they keep on changing? They keep on changing, right? Obviously, temperature जो आज है 2-3 महीने के बाद नहीं रहेगा, right? So these factors change. These factors change. Now, if these are abiotic components, and on these abiotic components, if biotic components are dependent upon, right, ये सारे abiotic components है, इन abiotic components पे biotic components dependent है. पहले ही definition में हमने ये देखा है कि environment में दो components है, biotic, abiotic, और वो constantly interact कर रहे. So there is constant interaction going on between biotic and abiotic components. If these abiotic components are changing, will there be any response that biotic components will have to exhibit towards these changing abiotic components? Yes. If they do not exhibit that response, their survival would be questioned, right? And that's why these biotic components provide response. They provide some response, and that response is in the form of adaptations. That response is in the form of adaptations. Some adaptations are temporary and some adaptations are permanent. Let us talk about these adaptations, which are in the form of responses given by biotic components towards changing abiotic component. Right? So next subheading, we are in the individual stage only. हम क्या डिस्कस कर रहे हैं? हमने पहले डिस्कस किया कि ऐसे कौन से एबायोटिक फैक्टर्स है जो इंडिविजुअल्स के लाइफ के लिए इंपॉर्टेंट है, राइट? When we discuss those abiotic components, we found that these abiotic components keep on changing, and that's why we also should be aware of what kind of response the biotic components are providing towards these changing abiotic components. So next subheading you can give is responses by biotic components towards changing abiotic components. Responses by biotic components towards changing abiotic components. Okay. So what are those responses? First is regulate. First response is regulate. ठीक है. Under that you can write 1 point. With this response, an individual will try to maintain constant internal environment. Will try to maintain constant internal environment through various processes. Like so first is thermoregulation. Like ऐसा एरो करके आप लिख सकते हो. फर्स्ट इज थर्मोरेगुलेशन. अंडर दैट helps maintain constant internal temperature. ठीक है. Now, in order to maintain constant internal temperature, if we take example of humans can carry out thermoregulation. So humans can carry out thermoregulation through 2 processes. Which are those 2 processes? Sweating and shivering, right? जब भी ठंड का सीजन होगा, whenever winters would be there, in order to maintain, हमें see what is the goal in regulation? Goal in regulation is to maintain constant internal environment. ठीक है. इस एग्जाम्पल में, इस प्रोसेस में हमें क्या कांस्टेंट रखना है? टेम्परेचर कांस्टेंट रखना है. तो टेम्परेचर कांस्टेंट रखने के लिए कुछ प्रोसेसेस कैरी आउट की जाती है. फॉर एग्जाम्पल, इस सीजन में जब कोल्ड सीजन है, विंटर सीजन है, तो एक्सटर्नल टेम्परेचर कितना होता है? मान लेते हैं अभी 10 डिग्री सेल्सियस टेम्परेचर है, राइट? सो एक्सटर्नल टेम्परेचर इज 10 डिग्री सेल्सियस. बट फॉर फंक्शनिंग ऑफ आवर बॉडी वी नीड 37 डिग्री सेल्सियस इंटरनल बॉडी टेम्परेचर. हमारा जो बॉडी टेम्परेचर चाहिए वो कितना चाहिए? 37 डिग्री सेल्सियस चाहिए, राइट? नाउ इन ऑर्डर टू मेंटेन दैट 37 degree Celsius temperature when the external temperature is 10 degree Celsius, what we do is shivering, right? ऐसा नहीं कि स्वेटर्स पहन लिए, पहले के ज़माने में थोड़ी ना स्वेटर्स थे, right? Natural process we are talking about. Naturally हम body temperature maintain कैसे करते हैं? We shiver, and as we shiver, it leads to production of heat because it is a body activity. It is a body activity like running. When you run, it will lead to production of heat. Same is the case with shivering. As it is a body activity, it will lead to production of heat, and that will help us maintain our temperature at 37 degrees Celsius, right? So one process is shivering. It is carried out during winters. During summer season, we sweat. So another is sweating. ठीक है. So with the help of these 2 processes, we are able to thermoregulate. Are you able to understand this? ठीक है. So sweating में क्या होता है? Our body will produce sweat, and that sweat will evaporate. As a result of evaporation of sweat, there would be a cooling effect on our body, right? Simply अगर हम ये देखेंगे, let's say ये skin surface है. On this skin surface, let's say these are molecules of sweat. These are, let's say, molecules of sweat. Let me number them as first, second and third layer. As per you, so sweating क्यों हो रही है? Why sweating is occurring? No, why sweating is occurring? Because external temperatures are more than 37 डिग्री सेल्सियस. हमारे बॉडी को कितना टेम्परेचर चाहिए? 37. बाहर का टेम्परेचर है मान लेते हैं 45 डिग्री सेल्सियस, राइट. Internal temperature we have to maintain at 37. Now if external temperature is 45, as per you, out of these three layers, which layer of sweat will have more temperature? First, second, third. Which layer will have more temperature? First, obviously first. क्यों? क्योंकि बाहर का temperature 45 है, right? So first layer will have more temperature, and that's why eventually it will evaporate, right? Eventually वो layer क्या हो जाएगी? Evaporate हो जाएगी. अगर ऐसी layer जो so let me add the temperature and then I'll explain this point. So you are saying that this layer is at higher temperature. So let us consider कि वो 44 डिग्री सेल्सियस पे है. रैंडम एग्जाम्पल्स, ये है मान लेते हैं 43 पे और ये है 42 पे, ठीक है. नाउ यू सेड दैट इट इज द फर्स्ट लेयर विच हैज हायर टेम्परेचर एंड दिस हायर टेम्परेचर लेयर विल इवेंचुअली इवेपोरेट, राइट. सो कौन सी लेयर इवेपोरेट हो गई है? जिसका टेम्परेचर था 44 डिग्री सेल्सियस. अगर कोई लेयर जिसका ज़्यादा टेम्परेचर है वो वहाँ से वैनिश हो गई है, तो उस पूरे सिस्टम का टेम्परेचर बढ़ेगा या कम होगा? कम होगा. Why? Because higher temperature layer has evaporated, and that's why the systemic temperature would fall, and that is what is the cooling effect on our body. Are you able to understand this point, everyone? Why evaporation has cooling effect? Because the layer of sweat which has higher temperature has vanished, has evaporated from that particular system. Clear? Fine. So that's why we have, let's say, cooling effect, and that's why we will be able to thermoregulate to maintain our body temperature at 37. Clear? So this is thermoregulation. There are organisms that are living in water. They carry out another process called as osmoregulation. They carry out another process called as osmoregulation. What is osmoregulation? It helps maintain constant water balance inside the body. It helps maintain constant water balance inside the body. ठीक है. तो ये कौन से प्रोसेस से होता है? What is the process? Osmosis, right. Osmosis. And it is also carried out with one more process, and that is diffusion. With osmosis and diffusion, we carry out osmoregulation that would help us maintain water balance. Clear? Now, what is osmosis and diffusion? Please write down one point for osmosis. Osmosis के लिए एक point लिखिए. It is the process in which there is a movement of water. There is a movement of water, in bracket solvent, 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 from low concentration solution to high concentration solution with, or not with, through permeable membrane. Through permeable membrane. ठीक है. Fine. So what is osmosis? In osmosis, what flows? It is solvent. राइट. व्हाट फ्लोज इज सॉल्वेंट. व्हाट इज सॉल्वेंट? हाँ बताइए, सॉल्यूशन के बारे में आप कल बात कर रहे थे, बताइए व्हाट इज सॉल्वेंट. होमोजेनियस सॉल्यूशन, हेट्रोजेनियस सॉल्यूशन हुआ ना कल. सो लेट्स कंटिन्यू दैट डिस्कशन. टेल मी व्हाट इज सॉल्वेंट. Solvent is that component which is larger in amount. जिसी भी कंपोनेंट की अमाउंट ज्यादा होगी वो होगा सॉल्वेंट. फॉर एग्जांपल लाइम वाटर. लाइम वाटर में सॉल्वेंट क्या है? वाटर. व्हाई? बिकॉज लाइम जूस इज ए सोल्यूट, राइट. जो डिसॉल्व हो रहा है सॉल्वेंट में, इस केस में वाटर. ठीक है. सो व्हाट फ्लोज इन द प्रोसेस ऑफ ऑस्मोसिस? सॉल्वेंट. ठीक है. ऑलवेज रिमेंबर इट फ्लो, सॉल्वेंट फ्लोज इन द प्रोसेस ऑफ ऑस्मोसिस. फ्रॉम वेयर? फ्रॉम लो कॉन्सेंट्रेशन सॉल्यूशन टू हाई कॉन्सेंट्रेशन सॉल्यूशन. ठीक है. एंड फॉर ऑस्मोसिस टू ऑकर, it always needs a permeable membrane. If permeable membrane is not there, there cannot be any osmosis. Okay? So that is osmosis. Now diffusion. Diffusion. Under that, it is a flow of, diffusion is a flow of solute and solvent. Solute and solvent from high concentration solution to low concentration solution. From high concentration solution to low concentration solution. With or without a semi-permeable membrane. With or without a semi-permeable membrane. ठीक है. फाइन. सो ऑस्मोसिस में मैंने परमिएबल मेम्ब्रेन बताया, सेमी परमिएबल मेम्ब्रेन. प्लीज ऐड सेमी, प्लीज ऐड टर्म सेमी देयर. सेमी परमिएबल ऐड कीजिए प्लीज. प्लीज ऐड सेमी परमिएबल इन द डेफिनेशन ऑफ ऑस्मोसिस. राइट. ऑस्मोसिस में सेमी परमिएबल मेम्ब्रेन. ठीक है. सो व्हाट इज डिफ्यूजन? व्हाट फ्लोज इन डिफ्यूजन? बोथ सोल्यूट एज वेल एज सॉल्वेंट. राइट. कहां से कहां? हाई टू लो concentration of solution. See, when it might be the case you may come across some different definition, पर वो different definition नहीं है, वो wording अलग होगी. Right? They might use some different wording. So definition यही है. उस केस में भी definition का अगर आप essence देखेंगे तो यही essence आएगा, but wording अलग हो सकती है. Right? So what flows in diffusion? It is solute as well as solvent. From where? From high concentration solution to low concentration solution. And for a diffusion there may be presence of permeable membrane, there may be presence of semi permeable membrane, or semi permeable membrane may be absent. ऐसा necessary नहीं है diffusion में कि आपको उस semi permeable membrane की जरूरत होगी. ठीक है. For example, when we talk about cell, cell membrane is a semi permeable membrane. ऐसा membrane कोई भी membrane, for example चाय का जो फिल्टर करने का जो क्या बोलते हैं उसे, छन्नी. हाँ. सो वो भी एक permeable membrane है, right? And it is also a semi permeable membrane. क्यों? Because it is allowing tea to percolate, but it is not allowing that tea powder to percolate. राइट. उस छन्नी से टी नीचे आता है कप में, पर उसके साथ टी पाउडर, चाय पत्ती आती है? नहीं आती है. सो इट इज ए सेमी परमिएबल मेम्ब्रेन. सो सेमी परमिएबल मेम्ब्रेन मीन्स it will allow flow of some components, it will not allow flow of some other components. ठीक है. क्लियर. सो in case of cells, cell membrane is a semi permeable membrane. ठीक. So that is what is the process of regulation. Clear. Next now. Second response given by living organisms is confirm. Right. Now, see, regulate. In regulate, there are different body processes that are carried out. For example, sweating, shivering, osmoregulation, diffusion, etc., etc., osmosis, diffusion, etc., etc. Now, all these body processes need energy. All these body processes need energy. And that's why most of the organisms cannot carry out regulation. Most of the organisms cannot carry out regulation. For example, plants cannot carry out regulation. क्यों? Because plants are standing at a particular place. जो भी resources उनके around होंगे, उन resources का use करके ही उन्हें survive करना है. But in case of humans, for example, we talked about sweating and shivering. Humans being animals can move from one place to another. आपको भूख लगी, आप बाहर निकले किसी रेस्टोरेंट में या किसी आउटलेट में जाके कुछ खा लिया, वापस आ गए. But that facility is not there with plants. Animals can move, and that's why more often than not animals can regulate. क्यों? क्योंकि regulation is a costly affair. It needs resources. Shivering करेंगे, when we shiver, we need more food to eat, and that's why we often feel hungry during winter season. When we carry out more sweating, we need more water to drink, and that's why we feel thirsty during summer season. So resource intensive process hai regulation. Those resources are not available for all the organisms, and that's why all the organisms are not able to regulate. ठीक है, अगर उनके पास रिसोर्सेस नहीं है रेगुलेट करने के लिए, तो उन्हें क्या करना पड़ेगा? कंफर्म. सो second response is confirm. Please write down one point. In this response, living organisms change. Living organisms change. Living organisms change. Internal body conditions. Internal body conditions as per internal body conditions as per the external conditions. As per the external conditions. Fine. So that is what happens during conformation. They would change their body processes so that they are able to match with the external condition. For example, in plants. What plants do? When harsh conditions are there outside, they close their stomata. They close their stomata so that they'll be able to conserve water. Right? अगर मान लेते external condition harsh है, they'll close stomata so that they would be able to conserve water in that particular harsh condition. Right? Similarly, अगर external condition harsh हो रही है, they will shed leaves. Shedding of leaves would occur so that they would be able to conform with the external conditions. Right? So that would be the response that would be given by plants when external conditions are harsh. And that is the way of conformation in plants. How animals conform? How animals conform? Animals conform with the external condition by changing the rate of metabolism. Right? Based upon external condition, they will change their rate of metabolism. Now, what is rate of metabolism? Rate of metabolism मतलब क्या? Simply put, it is the speed at which calories would be consumed to produce energy. किस रेट पे कैलोरीज को यूज करना है टू प्रोड्यूस एनर्जी, दैट वुड बी डिटरमाइंड बाय द एक्सटर्नल कंडीशंस इन दिस केस. दिस इज डिटरमाइंड बाय एक्सटर्नल कंडीशन एंड दैट्स व्हाई इट इज कंफर्मेशन. आर यू एबल टू अंडरस्टैंड दिस पॉइंट? ठीक है. So these are the responses given by plants and animals towards changing external condition. We are not done with all the responses. we'll be talking about 2 more responses and then we'll move towards the adaptation tomorrow. ठीक है? So if you have any doubt please ask. Yes, दोनों जगह पे semi permeable membrane है, shelly. Hibernation कल बात करेंगे. We'll be talking about hibernation tomorrow. Right? It is suspension. Changing skin. What is that, Himanshu? Changing skin. If you have doubts, please ask. See, in protection, it has a negative connotation. In protection, we will protect, and in order to protect, we will not allow use. But in conservation, we will make sure that use is allowed, and at the same time, we are able to give some protection to the let's say environment. Right? Protection may no use, conservation may protection with use. No, that is not confirmation, Himanshu. It is the let's say development of cells, right? It is the development of cell. It is the stage in the development of cells where the skin of snakes is let's say वो खाल वो change करते हैं, right? It is not confirmation. It is not the result of any external condition. It is the cell growth process. सोर्सेस मैंने बताया नहीं ना.